Welcome, fellow stargazers. Congratulations, you've taken another step towards the realization. Today's video is very different from what I usually cover on this channel. I don't usually step outside of my comfort zone, that is science and philosophy, but I feel like I really need to make this particular video because there are a lot of things that I, at the very least, need to get off my chest. The Republic of India, a rising superpower, which is often recognized for its bustling environment, exquisite cuisines, over-the-top action sequences, and the friendly and welcoming nature of the people. But all of this is from a superficial perspective. Anyone who lives within the country knows of its various problems, most of which are spoken of often. But I feel like there is one key problem that is not nearly talked of as much as it should be: caste, and the consequent politics that revolves around it. To put it simply, caste can be defined as a group of people who are categorized based on certain societal norms revolving around the person's occupation. This system of categorization based on caste leads to the origin of concepts of upper and lower classes. And where there is division, there is unfair rule, just like what we are seeing in our country at the moment. Now I know you probably expect me to state the obvious facts that you've heard 1,000 times already, but I don't really want to focus a whole lot on them because of the very fact that they are basically common knowledge at this point. But still, just as a mandatory practice, I will state some facts. Yes, caste system is not a Vedic concept. The original concept that we find in the Rig Veda was that of the Varna system. This system was based on the occupation of the individual that he'd choose based on his skill or his calling. Varna system is a seemingly normal system with a noble cause of promoting equal opportunities and freedom of choice. It also promotes maximum efficiency, as only those eligible for a particular task are assigned the same, and each task is treated with respect. So how did the Varna system become the caste system? That can be understood as a sequence of events spanning over various decades of misinterpretation of and disturbance in the Varna system. Many historians believe that the disturbance was caused due to foreign refugees and travelers coming to India and settling down here. When their societal structure met ours, some irregularities were created, which caused our own people to deviate from the Vedic sense of societal divisions. Another reason given for the emergence of caste is the fact that around the same time, people also started marrying within their own Varna, meaning people of one profession would only marry someone who's also in the same profession. This started creating a lineage of families in which every single person had the same occupation. And this is exactly what brings us to the third and most significant reason behind the origin of castes: occupation. Since people started marrying within the same Varna, this practice soon changed from "I must marry someone with the same Varna as me" to "I and everyone related to me must only be associated with the Varna that all of us collectively inherit." As is evident, this was a very divisive thought process, and it soon took its effect and segregated the society into various families who would all only practice one profession. Soon these families married amongst each other and created entire villages where everyone had the same profession. This caused the emergence of jati or castes, whose names were based on their collective profession. Castes like Sunar, Lohar, Nai, and some censored words, among others, are just a few examples. The emergence of Manusmriti around the same time also prohibited marriages between two castes, further isolating the castes from each other. These were the early stages of the worst things that were about to happen. As much as we like to deny it, it is the truth that our own people discriminated against others of their kind on baseless grounds such as upper and lower castes. Those belonging to the upper castes were considered pure and divine, while those belonging to the lower castes were considered impure and thus were discriminated against. This system continued, not only allowing the upper caste to exploit the lower, but also weakening the societal structure altogether, making it easier for invaders to further destroy an already weak society. Of course, after independence, the reservation system was implemented to help uplift the socio-economic conditions of the lower castes. The reservation system itself has been under controversy several times, and it's also been noted that a lot of the lower caste people have been influenced by Buddhist ideologies, and you can clearly see frequent clashes between them and any upper caste person in various comment sections across the web. This was all that we've all heard or mostly knew of before. Now I want to discuss something beyond the general discussion, which is the current and future implications of the caste and reservation system. I know the topic of caste is very sensitive, but take a moment and set aside all the arguments that go around from both sides. People argue why reservation is not needed, others argue why it is still needed. Then, like I mentioned, there are some who believe in the Hindu ideology and frequently have arguments with those being influenced by the Neo-Buddhist ideology. Well, if you just lower the volume of these arguments that fill up your head, you'll realize nobody cares. And I know I probably sound rude or insensitive, but truly, think about it. You really think anyone outside of our nation really cares about which of these two religious figures is more badass? And no, this is not to say we should seek unnecessary foreign approval, but what I'm trying to say is that we need to think globally. We can't simultaneously remain in our own little bubble of arguments and still dream of being a global leader. Yes, caste system was and continues to be a major issue. But unless we, and I mean everyone regardless of their caste, start thinking what's the collective future, we can't outgrow these shackles of a dark history. It's funny to me how we are all frustrated by political parties in one way or another and still fall right into their trap of dividing and ruling over us. And in case of India, they didn't even have to work too hard to create these divisions. All they had to do was capitalize on the already existing ones. And in my opinion, the reservation system we have today is the biggest example of how they capitalized on our divisions. Keep in mind, I'm not against the idea of reservation itself. It really is a novel attempt at equal and fair representation, an upliftment of those who've been historically discriminated against. But here's the issue: the implementation of the system. Reservation is being used less as a means to uplift the people and more as a way to uplift the votes and bank balances of politicians. I'll give you a very simple example to let you understand what issues I have with the reservation system. You must have all noticed this a lot of times. There's one particular road in your city that keeps breaking again and again, despite being remade every single time by the same contractor. Well, the reason for this is that the contractor won't ever want the road to be properly built, because if it keeps breaking again and again, he'll get another contract and thus more money. Now replace the contractor with politicians, the road with lower castes, and the reconstruction with a reservation system. You see what I'm trying to say? Despite almost 8 decades of independence, the reservation system hasn't been successful in eradicating the divisions between the castes. If anything, it has only amplified them further. And that is because nobody has tried to cure the root cause of these divisions, which is the divisive mentality so deeply ingrained in our psyche. Because they don't want to cure the problem. What they want is to profit from the problem by selling an illusion of a solution. Today, caste is no longer a cultural term because it has become a political term. Earlier, the lower caste used to be victims of the system. Today, both the upper and lower castes are victims of this system that none of us asked for, but were unfortunate enough to be born into. Another aspect of the caste system that I'm surprised not a lot of people notice is how this historical habit of generational occupation has shaped itself even in modern times. इंजीनियर का बेटा इंजीनियर बनेगा, लॉयर का बेटा लॉयर बनेगा और डॉक्टर का बेटा डॉक्टर बनेगा. जो ना बन पाया वो हेडलाइन बनेगा. Sounds ridiculous, but today even these occupations are practically a caste of their own, because the mentality is the same. All we lack is probably a modern Manusmriti to further solidify the same. This Indian mentality that the modern generation often criticizes finds its roots in the seemingly unrelated caste system, and we all know how negatively this strict family occupation system has affected the youth. So much so, it deserves a separate video of its own. For the time being, Let's focus on the possible solutions of this problem. Ever since independence, and even before that, everyone in this country has grown up in such a divisive system that now it almost feels normal, and that is scary. We are compartmentalizing our own society into such small groups that it's practically impossible to ever join hands for something greater together. How can we expect to lead others when we can't even work towards a greater cause? And the normalizing of this caste system is evident in the very day-to-day observations that we make. Caste-specific gatherings in colleges, caste-specific community and marriage halls, and songs glorifying a particular caste are just some examples. I have personally noticed that this divide between two castes is fed to the minds of the youth, particularly when they are in college, ironically in the name of uniting your own caste. It's funny yet tragic how everyone is a victim of this system. Yet we all continue to indulge in activities that only further promote this divide. While other nations focus on science and technology, aiming for a better future, we are still stuck in a regressive and age-old practice that continues to propagate with each generation because we won't let it go. We are the maggots of our own wounds. And the reservation system doesn't help either. It's not hard to recognize that the reservation system has institutionalized the concept of caste, and those of the lower caste who now find themselves financially and socially well off have been so addicted to the easier way out that they don't want to let this system go away either. And every time I've talked to people about this issue regardless of their caste, their responses have reflected a common pattern: self-entitlement, arrogance, blaming everyone except themselves, but most importantly, lack of education. And this is exactly and realistically the only solution to this problem: educating people about our history, but more importantly, promoting inclusiveness in the same. Realizing that the past saw us separated, but the future, if there has to be any, is only possible if we work together. If we wish to bring back the golden age of this currently dwindling civilization, we need to observe a common factor in the golden age of every single civilization: the existence of a center of knowledge and research. Great universities such as Takshashila and Nalanda, and libraries such as the ones in Baghdad or Alexandria are prominent examples. Knowledge and the ability to think of a promising tomorrow triumphs over the foundations of a claustrophobic yesterday. People who can think beyond just the issue are the ones who can look at the solution that lies ahead. The scope of a shared origin, but even more simply, a shared existence. And let's also face the truth: no politician will ever help end the caste and reservation system because they both can't win votes. Many people of the previous generations, and even a lot from the newer ones, are damaged beyond repair and can never think beyond this regressive system. But there does exist a fine fraction of those who can, in fact, think. Consider this video a call to all those who lie in the latter, because it's you and only you who can propel this nation forward, a nation that simply refuses to even move a step ahead. So when you find yourself lost in the raging thunderstorm of a system practiced by a brain-dead population, do not look elsewhere for the silver lining. The very fact you have the conscience to look for it, my friend, means that you are the silver lining. And until next time, chase brilliance.